Oh putain!
Welcome to No Enemies Here, the news for your blues. In this case, heavy metal. Why? I'm sure Stigler's saying, what the hell is he talking about heavy metal for? Relax, Stiggy. I got something for you here. Robert Carroll and I, KilRoyWasHere, you know, we chat sometimes, you know, we FaceTime and talk about brothels and cocaine. And sometimes war games, and heavy metal came up for some reason, but it was war games with the heavy metal. And for you people that love heavy metal, or like heavy metal, or want to give it a shot, because you know what, at low volumes heavy metal, you can get into it, you know. There's a band called, and if I'm not mistaken, let me see here. I got it on here. I just want to bring it up. They're called Sabaton. Now, Sabaton is a heavy metal band from Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. And they were featured on Indie Nidel's great channel, World War II, week by week. Which you should. Listen. Oh, hold on a second. I think the pizza guy's here. I'll come back. I'll pause. I'm back from getting the pizza. You won't believe what just happened. I'm not even making this up. Anyways, the pizza guy comes in, right? And it's the regular pizza guy, you know. It's a big man, you know? Big man. Anyways, I don't know why this came up, but he said something, I don't know, I'm a military man. And I said, really? He says, yeah, I fought in the Golan Heights. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Excuse me. And then he said he saw battle. And I'm like, wow. Anyways, he's a military guy, this and this and that. All of a sudden he says he plays war games. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. He goes, yeah, I play war games. So I bring him downstairs in this room and I show him the games. Right away goes Atlantic Chase. I have that one. I have Imperial Struggle. And then he sees a most fearful sacrifice from Herman Lutten, and he says, my great-grandfather fought in that battle. I go, what are you talking about? That's an American Civil War. He goes, yeah, he was an officier. I go, what the hell's an officier? Officier. I wrote it down. Officier. And I don't know what that means. I'm going to figure it out. Right now, I can't go on the Google and whatever. Officier. Anyways, he was in a part of Quebec called La Beauce, which bordered by water someplace in the States. I don't know exactly the geography of it, but these were people who were not drafted, but in a sense something like that, to go fight and help whichever side of the Americans he was in. I don't know, I'm assuming Union side. I couldn't believe it. I don't know what other game he said he had. He had, a Zero Leader by DVG. His name is Richard. He's 70 years old. He's a big guy, man. And who knew? He lives in my neighborhood. We're talking a couple of houses down. So I'm going to try to get in touch with the guy and maybe have a few games. Finally, I can just walk to the guy's house and play a war game. It's happening. Therefore, there should be no excuse me playing a war game. Bah! Okay, getting back to Sabaton. Sabaton. They write about historical battles. Castle Eater. The White Death. The Finnish sniper. Stalingrad. Huge things on World War I, World War II. Medieval battles. All their songs, all of them, is a history lesson. Sabaton. And, you know, and me and Robert Carroll were like laughing, yeah, check this out, check that out. They're coming to Montreal. They're on a world tour right now. They're coming to Montreal on the War to End All Tours. I think that's what it's called. On October 22nd, I wrote to them saying that I'd like to interview these guys, you know? I think the singer, it's all in English, by the way, the Sabaton. And I like the historical albums because they have historical with narration. I like it with the narration. They have some albums without the narration. I want that little story, and then you get into the music, which is really cool. And also, I bet you didn't notice, Christopher Lee, who recently passed a couple of years ago. Remember Saruman? The Hammer Horror Dracula? In The Wicker Man, he was the mayor. And, I mean, tons of other movies. Fu Manchu. He was the Fu Manchu. I think it was a Hammer Horror. Christopher Lee was a special operatives guy, right? He was a behind-the-scenes guy. And there's a lot we don't know about this guy. And he was for lack of a better word, a noble, because his mother was an Italian princess. Christopher Lee. Anyways, he was a part of the SOE, I guess. I guess it's the SOE. And he never really spoke about it because he's an actor, right? You interview him about acting. And at one point, Christopher Lee is just talking, and he's talking about how Peter Jackson said, okay, now, Saruman, you're gonna get stabbed in the back, so, you know, you gotta act this way and that way. And Christopher Lee turns around to Peter Jackson and says, do you know the sound of a man being stabbed in the back is? And Jackson says, no. And Christopher Lee says, well, I do. Holy moly. So, why does Christopher Lee come into the music business or talking? Because he has 3 heavy metal albums out. One on Charlemagne. He sings. He's got a great voice. It's the commanding Christopher Lee voice. Look, I'm telling you, already this is a fun episode just for me. Check it out, okay? Let me know in the comments below. It's we got Kilroy in the house. We have Ricardo in the house. It's Thursday because I work Friday, so I'm gonna have Dave later on for sure. Send me a video, and probably Wojennik. In case Wojennik doesn't send me the video, well, I have his channel covered. So, isn't that cool? Pizza guy, Robert Carroll, brothels, and heavy metal. Unbelievable. Christopher Lee? Who knew? Who knew? Have a great day.
Black Chain.
Hello, this is Riccardo Masini, and this time the greatest day in history and games is July 25th, 1593. The day when King Henry IV of France decided that attending a mass was a worthy sacrifice to conquer Paris and converted thus to Catholicism, putting an end to the devastating wars of religions in his country. This story begins with one of the most famous, but certainly not the most capable of all the kings of France, Francis I, faced with the dilemma of dealing with a new Lutheran Reformation that was beginning to spread all over Europe. Essentially faithful to Catholicism, Francis, however, did not oppose the new confession, nor fully tolerated it. And things became even more complicated when a new interpretation of Christian scriptures appeared in France, Calvinism. Francis I died in 1547, and his heir, Henry II, tried to respond to the growing factionalism and the first religious massacres in the country with a growing Catholic repression. But he suddenly died during a joust in 1559. This gave control of the Kingdom of France, together with its high debts due to the unfortunate conduct of the wars in Italy against the Spanish, to Henry's wife, Caterina de' Medici, as Queen Regent of 15 years old, Francis II. Caterina was a highly intelligent ruler, forced to navigate constant and growing unrest all over the country and at court itself. She escaped assassination and kidnapping attempts, endless intrigues, and the very dangerous support of the Catholic faction, led by the Duke of Guise, who tried to exploit the conflict with the so-called Huguenots, that is, the Protestants and Calvinists, to obtain more control on what he perceived as a weak crown. And what a conflict it was! Historians count up to 7 major confrontations and a final war of the three Henrys that turned all of France into a chaotic battlefield among nobles, local populations, military commanders, and intellectual figures. Caterina was involved in most of the struggle, supporting his son Charles IX after Francis II's death, and even during the terrible St. Bartholomew's Day massacre of August 1572. In that day, the main leaders of all factions were present in Paris to attend the marriage of Catholic Margaret of France to Huguenot Henry of Navarre. But a failed assassination of Huguenot leader Admiral Coligny and the growing machinations of the House of Guise led to a general revolt in the city and widespread killing of all Protestants and Calvinists present there and in other regions of the country, including Admiral Coligny himself. What followed were another 20 years of civil war, with the crown uneasily balancing between the two warring factions and the new king Henry III begging Henry of Navarre to convert to Catholicism and end this terrible conflict once and for all. The last years of the war were thus a military and a political stalemate. Henry, victorious on many battlefields, tried to capture Paris by force, but realized that conquering the city, and most of all keeping the power through that force alone, would be impossible. So in 1593, his family said, Paris vaut bien une messe. Paris is well worth a mass, and accepted the conversion. After his victory in 1598, he wrote the Edict of Nantes, giving practical tolerance to all faiths in France. However, even if the open conflict was finally over and Henry proved a very capable and prudent ruler, the situation was far from pacified. The new king of France was assassinated in 1610, and the Huguenots would still be persecuted by a stranded crown until their almost total eradication under the rule of Louis XIV. France was united at last, but at a terrible cost. I have to say that the French wars of religion always fascinated me. You know, the period, the characters, the mere dramatic strength of this story. These events, however, are not often depicted in historical simulation games. True, They are very complex, often controversial, terribly entangled into one another, but there is a very recently published game that tries to capture all of this, and of course, it just had to be a French game. Wars of Religion France 1562-1598 by Jérôme Lafranc is a strategic card-driven game covering the entire period, published by Fellowship of Simulation, the same house that gave us the acclaimed Verdun 1916, still Inferno. I have to confess, this time the passion I feel for this conflict led me to break my personal rule, and I'm speaking about this game before knowing it sufficiently well for my standards. However, from what I see from the components and what I read in the rulebook, we are dealing with an easy-to-learn but very comprehensive political and military simulation of these troubled times. Battles, intrigues, financial maneuvering, and even intellectual disputes will see the three factions, Crown, Catholics, and Huguenots, and their many leaders compete over a war-torn country, willing to put an end to this devastating conflict, but at the same time determined to consolidate their power. The game comes with a rulebook, a fascinating playbook full of historical details, and even a priority-based solo mode. A title that gave me good vibes just from the start, and surely a simulation about a seldom covered topic. For me, Wars of Religion is well worth a try. So, that's it for this time. See you on the next battlefield. Ciao!
On No Enemies Here this week, 3-minute board games has 2 videos out. Civilization: A New Dawn plus an expansion, all in 3 minutes, and Horus Hearsay in about 3 minutes. We have 6 Actual with Shadows of Brimstone, an unboxing. The core game and Frontier Town, this is what he's doing. It's an expansion from Flying Frog Productions, and I don't know if that's the same as Flying Buffalo. Oh, I was thinking Flying Buffalo. You see, we do different things to enhance the offspring of our passions, which is wargaming. And Liz Davidson on Beyond Solitaire. Regicide? A review of Regicide, I hope I pronounced that right, and How to Solo Smartphone Inc. I should say, Big Board Gaming has 5 videos out. The Course in Pocket, also an overview of Main Battle Tank, a little background on that same game, and turns 1 and 2. Bonding with board games and RPGs. The Chief is interviewing designer Saverio Spagnoli and Matthew Johnson on the GMT 500 game called Vijayanagara. I said that right. check out the Vijayanagara on Bonding with Board Games and also on GMT's P500. The man famously known as Calandale. 3 videos out. Austerlitz #1. Another video called Soldier's Sunbook Discussion. And which is worse, the aces and eights cut. Calandale, ladies and gentlemen, Calandale. On Cataclysm Now, Relief of Wake Island, Pacific War, a GMT game. This is the first battle scenario. The US Navy rushes to relieve the beleaguered Marine forces on Wake Island. You know how that turns out. Hey, you want to learn how to make a real stuffed potato? Eh? Or how to thicken stews, soups, and sauces? What's Chef Jean-Pierre? Enough said. Clark Commando 1983. I think Clark Commando's back after a couple of years. And he's back with the Gamers MMP Civil War Brigade Series. Part 1 and How to Play Civil War Brigade Series Part 2. On Combat Board Games, 1 video this week. He's unbagging, I hope I pronounced this right, Acre. The Third Crusade opens from Decision Games. Acre? Acre? I don't know, but it's English. I'm assuming it's Acre. And Dad vs. Son. Shalaxis with Kharkov. 10 videos of Kharkov. Parts 1 to part 8, plus a Redux. Now I know what Redux means. And thank you very much, by the way, on the comments. And he's going crazy. I guess he must love Kharkov. Check it out on Dad vs. Son this week. On Dave's Gaming Cave, we have 4 videos. The title bout: Joe Jeanette versus Larry Holmes. Joe Jeanette, yeah, Quebecer. Oh no, I think he's a Frenchman. That's it. I remember that. And Storm Above the Reich 1943 mid-mission number 4. And Eindeke. What's on the printer? Eindeke. And surprise what's in the box video. On Dave's Gaming Cave. And Federazione Italiana War Game is the international war game competition happening in Italy. There's an event clip and clip award event on Federazione Italiana War Game. George Hiote, Sticanes George. 3 videos. Advanced Squad Leader After Action Report on the Hasmo 13 Hasmo Historical something. I keep forgetting. Also, Guerrillas in the Mist. This is Advanced Squad Leader After Action Report and Close Combat. Last Stand Arnhem Night Battle. Close Combat. I think that's the old PC game. I used to like that game. Didn't know how to win. That's okay, I had a lot of fun. Gilbert Collins, my paisan from the south. 3 videos out. A Most Fearful Sacrifice Sorting Solution. Also Mark Simonich's U.S. Civil War 7 years later. And a Worthington publishing game, Cowboys 2. A brief look. You see, even a heavy grognard like Gilbert likes to play around. God, man. Ben Harsh of Harsh Rules. Breaking down board games with Ben Harsh. Learn to play with easy rules and its command and colors. Medieval, this is part 3, Evasion, and Leaders. All that on Ben Harsh. Hex to Hex has 2 videos, both Barbarossa, AGN, something Group North. I forget. That's what happens when you get old and eat pizza. Also on Hexes and Soldiers, Tattoo Man Philosopher, AJ Toy and B, talks about game design. Whose game design? His game design. Maybe, maybe not. Heidi Jester. I was asked to pitch in today. we're Thursday, but I'm going to say today because we're Saturday, because Tony is out. I was asked to be like a special guest anchoring, and I can't. I work. Sorry, Kurt, man. Look, I wanna, huh? Oh, God's sakes. 10 videos out. He's board gaming with Herman. This is a live stream. Also, Folklore The Affliction. This is a solo playthrough. And how many of those does he play? Just plays one. Then he goes back to Harry Potter. Harry Potter? I was never a big Harry Potter fan. Hogwarts Battle Deck. Then the men are there in the war room. We got Kurt. We got Tony. And we got... My God, I forget his name. I even forget his channel. Rough Swordsman, for God's sakes, man. Then Kurt plays Spirit Island. 2 videos of that. Looks at Elder Signs, Street of Arkham. I heard that was actually a good game. Looks at Churchill by GMT. And One Deck Dungeon quick playthrough with Paladin. On ID Jester this week. Get your fill. Jim Ozarski, respect! The Battle of Adenhofen for Shaco 2. And the 1 hour Crossfire Challenge. Also, Fumbling through Crossfire. Jim Ozarski, Grognard of the past year. For our Spanish listeners, Julius Fairfax looks at 2 minutes for medianoche. So I'm assuming it's 2 minutes to midnight. In Spanish. If I got it, I'm doing pretty good. Juste Garde, 2 videos. I think he plays 4 Lost Battles, Culm. The Operational Studies Group, I think Artie calls this Labatt. Labatt, but Artie, it's a beer, Labatt's. As a matter of fact, I'm having a Labatt's. Labatt. Huh? For God's sake, man. And Juste Garde, A Most Fearful Sacrifice. A new arrival on his channel. Let's get his take on the great Herman Lotman's great game. KilRoyWasHere. He's actually here. 5 videos out. He does 3 coffees with Kilroy. How much coffee does this guy drink? Anyways, he looks at in one of his coffees with Kilroy, 4 Against the Great Old Ones. Looks at You Choose series books, which are simple. You know, I want to get back into reading a little bit. It's just not pleasant for me to read and force myself to read, because reading, you're supposed to derive pleasure from it. And when I'm forcing myself to read, it's like, oh my God. But I'm going to try those. And on to Moscow from Worthington Publishing Games. Plus, he looks at Colonel of the Falklands from Decision Games and Almoravid, Reconquista and Riposte in Spain. This is a game by Volko Bunke. Who else with a title like that? On the channel that is Kings and Generals, we have 3 videos. Early Muslim expansions, number 3 and 4. Second Civil War and the Caliphate. Early Muslim expansion, as I said. And Invasion of Bunagona, Pacific War, number 35. Bunagona, I love that. And Woku, Japanese Pirates, Lord of Asia, Naval History, on Kings and Generals this week. We have Legendary Tactics wanting to get into quilting. Yeah, quilting. A game called Patchwork. It's a board game, it's a strategy board game. This is a how to play, review, and playthrough. I got a story on quilting. My girlfriend comes from Nova Scotia in the Pubnico area, and that is an Acadian, a hardcore Acadian, right? French Acadian. And you would say, well, what do you mean French Acadian? There's also English Acadian. But anyways, French Acadian, right? So every year, these 6 ladies get together, and for the museum, the Acadian Museum, for this is like a charity event, they They sit together, chat, and make a quilt. So I'm looking at these ladies, and they're quilting, and they're chatting, and the Acadians, they're very quiet people, you know, so there's not much ruckus happening, you know. Could you imagine Italians quilting? First of all, they'd be killing each other with the needles, but anyways. So I'm like, wow, you know, how long have they been at this? So far, it's 6 months, and I'm like, 6 months? What the hell? They're making a blanket. That's what I called it, a blanket. I almost got a shot in the head from my in-law. But anyways, it's not a blanket, it's a quilt. And says, how long are they going to be at this? Well, 1 year. So they start the day of last year's quilt sell. I don't know, they take a break for, I don't know, a weekend or something. And what are you going to do there but quilt, right? So they start then, and they take about 10 months to do this quilt. So I said, man, that's got to go for at least a couple of $100. I got a shot in the head, the back of my head. I think it sold for like 10 grand or something like that. And even then, what a steal. Because 6 man hours, 6 women, multiply that by, I don't know, 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, 5 hours a day, 4 days a week, whatever. 10 grand. Anyways, it's award winning. Going back to war news, Stigler. On Little Wars TV, what if Axis invasion of Malta war game? What if? What if something Malta? Alright, so they're exploring the what if moments of World War II. What if Hitler hadn't pulled the plug on Operation Hercules? Huh? Little Wars TV. On Lock and Load Publishing, we have 5 videos. They're killing it now because I think VS for Victory is out, and they're doing other games. But we're World at War, Blood and Fury, the Soviet Plan. Also Edge of the Line, World at War 85 Series Book 5. And they continue with Blood and Fury for the next 3 videos, having a Blood and Fury question and answer session live, which I participated in the chat, and let me tell you, these guys know every single chit, especially Keith. Man, you serious? Marco Omnigamer, formerly known as Marco Wargamer, Fury at Midway, a review. I don't know who did this game. Fury at Midway. Looks like a I don't know. That's why you come here to get your news. And the guy who looks like a vampire, Mark Felton of Mark Felton Production, has 3 videos out. The Death of Himmler, Episode 6, Himmler's Gold. Carl Paradzi has one of those bars. He showed it to me, because his old man was a brigadier general in World War II. That's worth like 35 grand. But anyways, second video is the Korean War Iron Cross and forgotten World War II plane found on a beach on Mark Felton Productions. And we have Mark the Crazy Man Walker from Flying Pig Games and Tiny Battle Publishing advertising the sequel to the 65 level Battles in the Jungle of Vietnam, 65 squad level combat in the jungles of Vietnam. I have it right here. They're coming out with a sequel, and it's a Kickstarter. Check it out, called 85 Graveyard of Empires. It's a sequel to 65. Oh, okay. There's a series happening there. We'll be right back.
guys, Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions Review, the punk rock band of war game review institutions. This week we did a review of Decision Games minigame called Lawrence of Arabia. It's no better and no worse than any of the other games in the Raider system, but I'm starting to get bored of the Raider and Commando system. Perhaps it's time for Decision Games to try a new rule set for their minigames, or do some more games that use the Cold War Blitz rules. We also did Wargame Chat number 51. In this episode, we talked about local convention known as Wars in Woodstock that we recently went to. We also talk about some of the more unique locations that conventions have taken place at. Last, Len did a first look video of the Budapest campaign. It's a new World War II game for World at War magazine. The rules look straightforward enough for this to be an easy game to learn. Thanks for watching and have a good evening. One last thing, my Battle of Zama Kickstarter is still going on and it has 12 days left to go. There's still time to back it and get the game at a reduced price. All proceeds will be used to support the Centurions Review website and YouTube channel. Thanks.
And this is on a side note. This is discrimination number 1 against me personally. Now, if you look at the door, obviously there's the instructions, but then there's that little thing over there. You know, that's the little thing. Like, I'm standing up and that's the keyhole. Now, how is this possible? How is this possible? Someone knocks on the door? I open the door, I get shot. I'm dead. Goodbye. Welcome back. And for all our Italian listeners, Mauro Faina has got 5 videos out. 4 of them are live with Il Gianni Zero Nero, playing Sicily fast action battles. And actually, they're all about fast action battles. Mauro Faina! Mo of Mo's Game Table has 3 videos out this week. The Long Road from Flying Peak Games. This is a game by Mark Walker. Also, Fatherland, the Long Road expansion. That says it all. And live play with the designer Mark Walker of The Long Road on Mo's Game Table. On My Own Worst Enemy, a look at STUKAJOE's CDG solo method with Command and Colors, Tricorn, and he's unboxing Napoleon's Last Gamble. Italian versus American cookies. Whatever and Chris, if I'm not mistaken. You're gonna get a laugh out of Eva. And Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials 3 videos this week. Command and Colors Ancients with Pavia 421. And Here Come the Rebels Scenario 8. And Command and Colors Combat Commander Stalingrad. And remember World War II with Rishi Sharma. The title is, here on this video, is Proof of God. World War II Air Force vet describes surviving an exploding airplane at 29,000 feet. I guess I believe in God too. And for our Italian listeners, but with a penchant for English, the Professor Riccardo Mazzini with Scipio News. Buona vacanza a tutti. So he says, you know, good vacations to everybody. On his war log, 4 videos of the same game, Malta Besieged, 1940-1942. One of them is in English. Rough Swordsman Wargamer, the guy I forgot his name, opened the box set and he's unboxing Empire of the Sun, a Mark Herman game. And Rough and Blue Livestream, he's playing Donnerschlag, Avuka Simulations. Relax, put your feet up. Stiggy, you could do the same thing. Watch on the Sci-Fi channel, Monster from the Ocean Floor. Come on, try to do an echo. The Lights, The Voice, Seek Out and Play, Up Front, American 501 City Fight, in 4. In 4. To me, that means it's in 4-4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, you never know. And on Simple History, 2 videos out. Spartan warriors began training at this age. I know, because I saw 300. But anyways. And the censored version of, here it says Iban, Headhunters, the Malay Crisis. They called them Iban. Sounds like my friend. And the legendary STUKAJOE does a live broadcast. He'll be unboxing and taking a look at the components of A Most Fearful Sacrifice by Herman Lettman, published by Flying Pig Games. The Board Game Chronicles tackles Pacific War battles. Number 12, Operation Land Crab. Look at all those charts. I used to really get into charts, all that technical stuff. Now, it looks like colors to me. On the Discriminating Gamers, we have 3 videos. Cody is looking at legendary Marvel Studios Guardians of the Galaxy. Also, Dune, War for Arrakis. To back or not to back, it must be a Kickstarter. And Cody's Game Shelf number 16. Man, this guy's got more game shelves than game shelves. I don't know what to say. On the Fokker Circus Pipe News, for lightheartedness, there are 3 videos. One by Samuel Gowath, Cabby's Mixture. Another one is a H.H. Burley Flake by Mac Barron and Solani Silver Flake. These are all reviews. And if I can take a moment and say, Carl Kretter, the Solani Silver Flake, jump on it. Getting back to the news, the Player's Aid. 3 videos out, 2 of them with Alexander's face in it. I don't know how much you can take. Review of Roman Disaster at Teutoburg from C3I Magazine number 35. Then he unboxes Give Us Victories from the Simula Edizione. And he reviews Firebase Vietnam from C3I number 34. All this on the Player's Aid. What do we have here? Gimpy of the Gimpy Gamer actually has 5 videos this week. One of them called Scam or Not, Your Thoughts. Then A Most Fearful Sacrifice review through Part 3 and Part 3 an addendum. Then Gimpy's Gal guesses the long road and he takes a look at Quartermaster Logistics Hold Up. Okay. Tony of Tony's Board Life has 2 videos. A Lock and Load Point Blank 29, he says here. Let's go, turn 1 part 2, and then he plays through live Mr. President. U-Boater 658, 5 videos. He's traveling. He does a Traveler campaign. First, Survey Medical Emergency. Then Operation Unthinkable. T5, Soviet forces fall back. And MacArthur's War, May 51, United States Marine Corps invasion repulsed. And 2 videos on Operation Unthinkable, T6, Allies destroy the Soviet front line and Soviets rebuild the line. Wardy Role Plays World War II, 5 videos, Blitzkrieg Commander, small scenario of a hill in 6mm, then a fistful of toes, intro game, fail. That was a mosquito, a fruit fly. Then a fistful of Towns intro version, anti-infantry combat, continues with that, with the World War II version, and then the British, the Victorian British, on Mars. I've always been interested in that, a bit steampunkish, I should say. And the cop that is Wayne Hansen. Looks like his head is coming out. Something looks like it's been patched in. He does a live chat. Thank God it's Friday. Live chat. And Wojennik TV has 3 videos out. 2 of them in Polish. One of them in English, it's Castle Eater. And the Polish one is a Vevictus number 163, an unboxing. And the other one, unfortunately, I can't decipher. on World War II in the Nidell's channel, 3 videos. We see that madman Mussolini, who let the dogs out, the invasion of Sicily, then General Patton orders war crimes, and the myth of Rosie the Riveter on the home front, on World War II with Indy Nidell. Zilla Blitz! Fire on the Mountain unboxing by Legion Wargames. Wargame historical game, U.S. Civil War. Oh, these are the tags he's got there. So he gives you his first initial impressions of Fire on the Mountain, the Battle of South Mountain. September 14th, 1862, published by Legion Wargames and designed by John Poniski. Sabaton. Look what you can get at Sabaton. I'm not going to go through it. Take a look. See? And, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for our news this week. Be right back.
Hello everyone, this is Michel Leviathan-Sorbet from the Polish YouTube channel Wojennik TV. Here is the roundup of the content published on my channel during the last 7 days. Firstly, on Tuesday I released an English review, and this was the review of Castle Eater, released by Dunverson Games. This is a game published in the Valiant Defense series, designed by David Thompson. Now this is an extremely interesting battle, or extremely interesting clash, which occurred at the final days of World War II. On the 5th of May, the Battle of Castle Eater took place, and this was one of the most bizarre and one of the strangest battles fought during the entire war. During this battle, American soldiers, alongside an Austrian resistance member, alongside French POWs and German soldiers, and even an SS deserter, defended the castle against a German SS division attack, Panzergrenadier division attack. So this was very, very strange. One of the only 2 occurrences in World War II when American troops and German troops fought alongside. So this is absolutely a very interesting battle. And Castle Eater is a game which enables us to recreate this interesting struggle. Now this is a solitaire game, although you can also play it with 2 players, but it is designed primarily to be played solitaire. Secondly, the second wargaming related video that I released on my channel during the last 7 days was the unboxing, or rather the look through of the most fresh, the newest issue of Vaevictis. Vaevictis issue 163, the oldest and the most interesting, most important French wargaming magazine that exists. It is published for more than 2 decades, and we still receive interesting content in it, with each time a new game. This time, the game which was added to this issue was the game covering the Battle of Hoabing of 1951-1952. So it is set in the Indochina War. The Indochina War is my absolutely favorite topic in history, so I was thrilled to discover this issue, to discover this game, and I'm really eager to give it a try. Those were the 2 wargaming related videos released on Wojennik TV during the last 7 days. As always, I wish you an excellent weekend, have a great gaming, but this time also a big wish of good luck to you, Dan. Thank you for all your content that you publish, but also take care of yourself. And now your health issues are the most important thing, so concentrate on that. Don't bother recording if you do not have the strength. This is a small message from me. I'm sending you all my best wishes, and I hope that everything will go well. Having said that, once more, thank you a lot for watching this brief roundup, and have a great weekend.
Today, Kilroy goes off the shelf, literally, on war game books, or book games, or books that have games in them, whatever you want to call it. Worthington, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, they started coming out with these book games, this whole new series of putting a war game in a book so that you can play it. And they weren't the first ones, though. I started thinking back and looking in my collection and say, hey, I've seen this stuff before. Maybe not quite this format, but I've seen this in the form of Sandhurst War Games, a book of Sandhurst War Games by Patty Griffith, complete with 4 original war games. This was published in 1982. This is the earliest I can find in my collection, not counting, choose your own adventure type games, which I'll get to. That really is a book that has war games in it. You get all the components in like this little satchel here, but the actual rules and history and context of the games are all in here. There's a little bit of history and setup and context, but here are all the rules and talks about the counters, and all those different counters and the maps and everything are in this packet here, and you have to cut out the counters, and so it's kind of a print and play almost type situation, but it is 4 complete war games in a book. And that's 1982. So going in chronological order, the next thing that I kind of find that fits a war game in a book is probably choose your own adventure type games. Now, choose your own adventures go back quite a long time, but they mostly are fantasy or sci-fi. This one right here is history. And this one is a quasi choose your own adventure, because this one here is basically setting up famous battles and then giving you a decision point. You can either choose A or B, or there might be 3 or 4 different type of decisions, and then you just measure yourself up to what happened in real history. So this really is not about branching decisions that are going to affect your path way down the road. This is really just about looking at a certain aspect of a battle, making a decision, and comparing yourself to history, but really more heavy on the history side and not as much on the choose your own adventure side. If you want to choose your own adventure and in a battle, then the Battleground General series does more of that. Again, these are more historical context. This one's El Alamein, this one's Arnhem, and you do get to make decisions that will have effects down the road, and there are some branching paths. So you do learn history here, although it does potentially limits playability, because once you've kind of solved the like any choose your own adventure, once you've kind of solved it, what's the point of going back? Although there is history in here, so you might want to go back just to brushing up on the history. If you want to go basic choose your own adventure, then there's a whole series of you choose type books, and I just have a few of them that are really made for kids or for young adults, and these are your typical choose your own adventure. You're going to have a path that you're going to make decisions, and you're going to go down that path, and you eventually will get to an outcome. Now, the interesting thing about these, there's 3 different paths in each book. There's numerous choices, and there's 23 endings, so there's multiple endings in these books. And the 3 different paths are usually relatively unique. You might be able to play opposing sides, or characters from opposing sides, or just key characters from the conflict. Like in Pearl Harbor, I think you get to play a nurse in that situation, so you get to see it from a different perspective. And again, like with most choose your own adventure, there's somewhat of a role-playing element to these games, because you're putting yourself in the shoes of that person in that time period or in that conflict, and you're making decisions based upon that. And so that's one aspect I like about that. Now, these are again made mainly for kids, but if you have bad eyes like me, the reading's actually easier in some of these things. And you're going to learn some history here. You're not going to learn as much history as you would in Yours the Reason Why, or even in Battleground General, but you're going to get an introduction to history. Now, if you want to get more of an introduction into the strategy or tactics of a situation, then you might want to pull up John Ontel's series, which is Armor Attacks, where you're a commander of a tank platoon, infantry combat, where you're a commander of a rifle platoon, or combat team, where you're a captain of a mixed platoon. I mean, you're going to have armor and rifle underneath you, and you're making decisions as a commander. And so these are going to give you a tactical situation. There's maps in here. There's some appendix, and there's a whole bunch of trying to train you up on what you need to know to be a commander in this situation, or a platoon leader, and you're going to be making decisions based on that. So this is, again, choose your own adventure, very kind of RPG-ish if you want to be in the role play a commander. And they're basically, it's modern combat. These were written in the 90s, so this is modern combat as of that time period. Neat thing about combat team is you're a company commander, but you're also, there's a little bit of fog of war element in here. So sometimes you have to roll dice. So it's not just a straight making a decision and have a branching path. You get to roll dice, and so there's a little bit of fog of war, and it also adds to the replayability of these because the dice might take you down a different path at some point. So that's kind of taking them in order of how some of these games came about, which brings us to modern day Worthington and all the different things they've done. They basically have the latest one that just came out was On to Moscow, but then they also have these solitaire versions, and these three, Gettysburg, Waterloo, and Braveheart, all have a very similar type of feel to them in that they are what I call a static map situation. You're going to have a situation where this is what the map looked like at that time in the battle, and then the AI is going to make decisions. You're going to roll on the AI, and that's going to tell you what they do to the map, and then you're going to make decisions that do things to the map, mainly marking off units and taking units off the board. And you're going to have limited times you can activate certain units, and you have limited activations, and you also have a time track, and you're trying to accomplish different things depending on the scenario. So these are all what I call kind of static map, and these are kind of reminiscent of Worthington's Freeman's Farm and Chancellorsville and the like. Now Bismarck, which was the one that started this off, is more of it's a different feel, because this is kind of a search and chase, hunt and destroy type situation where you're running the Bismarck and doing its missions, and then you're going to have British forces trying to hunt you down, and then the AI is basically searching different sectors or doing things to certain sectors and how it affects you. So it's a totally different kind of feel and look. And I think they're going to be doing more in this line, maybe in the Pacific at some point. Now, the latest one that just came out, On to Moscow, this is even different from those so far. This one is more of a kind of a, feels like a states of siege type situation where you have these different fronts that you're trying to move along and trying to get to Moscow. And these are the numbers you have to roll over, and you can commit resources to it. And so the AI is going to be making decisions again and doing things to the map, and then you're allocating your resources and trying to move along these tracks, or these fronts. So it feels even more different than the other ones in this series so far. And that's one of the ones, the Worthington's introduction of that kind of breathed life into this genre. Again, Choose Your Own Adventures have been out there for a while, but this really did bring some life into this genre, which, and I started going back and looking at my collection and saying that, there's been stuff out there for a while, but, a lot of people don't hear about it or play it. So you got the whole line of Minden games. They have the battle game book. And these books here are, this is something that goes with the Great War Salvo. These books here feel more like what the Sandhurst games were like. There's a game in these books, but you really need to make some components. They're not necessarily self-contained. There's usually counters that you have to copy or cut out or use in some of these games. Like in here, the Great War Salvo, you can go buy the components for it, and again, these are cutout type counters that you need to do, but they require some assembly, so to speak. Siege of Leningrad really doesn't require that much, but these are these are war game books, or war games in a book that you need to have to do some construction or assembly of some of the components, but they're basically a full game that you can play out of the book. Again, so that harkens back to the Sandhurst type games. Similar to that, or having a war game in a book, is the Lambo series, and there's a whole series of games by Mike Lambo that are, again, all solitaire, and they're all self-contained. You have to figure out, do you want to mark on these books, because there's usually a map on one side, there's the AI on one side, and the map on the other, and you got to figure out, do you want to mark on this? Or what a lot of people do, and especially these later ones in this series, he gives you sample counters that you can use. So people use minis, people use sample counters, people grab components from some of the other games, these, maybe Command and Colors or the like, and they use them in these games. Now, not all of these are hex and counter. Some of these are grids. Some of these are more of a track, but this is a full war game, solitaire war game in a book that has a built-in AI, and these are highly replayable. They're not dependent upon a choose-your-own adventure or a set path. It's like a war game. You can play it as much as you want to play any war game and try to get different results and just try to beat the AI on these things. So that is the Lambo series, which have really sprung up right after the Worthington came out. In that same vein, you have the Kirkpatrick series, which this is mainly harkens back to B-17 Queen of the Skies, which is what I call a charty war game, which is, you have charts, you make decisions on those charts, you roll dice, that takes you to more charts, and you're basically creating a narrative story. It's more narrative driven. It's not so much a lot of decisions or tactical decisions that you're making from an RPG type standpoint. It's more of, seeing where the charts take you and making a story out of that. And so this is basically taking B-17 Queen of the Skies and then taking it from a fighter's perspective and putting it in a book, to play. You got your board that keeps track of your crew, very reminiscent of B-17. You have your morale score, then you have a track of where you are on the in the game, and then you have some charts. There's just several. A lot of these games, there's just several of the same thing because you can write on it and destroy it. I usually make copies, but then you have your quick reference charts and tells you what to do and how you do it. So these are very simple, simplified versions of B-17 Queen of the Skies. Then you have. Which to me, this kind of is reminiscent of the Lambo series. You have Ironclads of the American Civil War by Patrick Real. I think this is the only game he's come out with yet, but this is basically you're an ironclad in the Civil War. This is beautifully illustrated. I mean, it's got some great graphics in there. You got your map board on the side. You've got your AI or scenarios objectives, but you have tons of scenarios in here. There's a lot of different scenarios to play, and it's basically kind of learn as you go. It starts off with some easier scenarios and then takes you up to more complexity as you move on. And this one has quite a few rules. Most of these games, there's only like about 5 or 8 pages of rules at most. This one has quite a few rules in here and feels more like a war game just in a book and not in a box. Then you have Mitchell and Adam Mitchell, who really, this harkens back to the Choose Your Own Adventure line, where these are Choose Your Own Adventure books. He started off with General Quarters, which you're commanding a submarine. iVirus, well, you're a virus. That's kind of for sci-fi. You can check out my Sci-Fi Fantasy Saturday on my channel and see what I kind of cover there. And then this one is MIA. This is the latest one. And this one is probably the most RPG-ish of the books that I've covered here, where you basically have a character. You're a lone soldier trying to get to an extraction zone, and you're going to have equipment, and you're going to have combat, and you're going to make tough choices. You might even have some moral dilemmas along the road here. But this is really a choose your own adventure. But the unique thing that he does, which is kind of similar to Combat Team, is that there's a dice mechanism that drives the narrative forward. You're just not making decisions and branching out. The dice help make those decisions. So that adds to a lot of replayability in that game or in that space as well. So there you have it. That's a quick overview of what's in this space, of what I've been covering. Oh, did I miss something? I think I missed these historical books here. Time Quest books. These are really just pure choose your own adventure books. They're not really military, but they're more alt history. This one you're trying to assassinate Hitler. This one's right after Napoleon's, right after Waterloo, and this one is the gunpowder treason plot of 1605, where they're trying to blow up Parliament. These really put you in the shoes. They're very much like choose your own adventure, and they put you in the shoes of that person in that time period, making decisions that are facing them. There's combat in here, which is a little bit different. You flip a coin. But it's kind of a Mitchell light, right? These are really focusing a lot on the history and kind of learning the history by playing that character or that person or being in the shoes of that person during that period. Whereas, like the Mitchell game here, you're really more into the actual role-playing aspect of making tough decisions on equipment, when to use equipment and combat and the like in that game. Anyway, so there you have it. I think I've covered everything. Hopefully I didn't jump around too much, but I thought you'd find this interesting because this is a rapidly developing aspect of our hobby. You know, Choose Your Own Adventure has been around a while, but these war game books with Worthington and Lambo and Kirkpatrick and Mitchell, these are relatively new to this aspect of our hobby, and I thought that you'd find this interesting. Thanks for watching.
Another week, another show. Thanks for watching this. This was a good one. I enjoyed this one. All the boys were in the house. Look, if any of you YouTubers that are featured on the channel or want to be featured on the channel, give me a call or drop me an email. But if any of you YouTubers want to do like Wojennik does or Dave does, hey, let me know, man. We'll work something out. Maybe I'll even write a piece of music. Know what I'm saying? I just got back from work, finishing up the show. Excuse me. I just had myself a tomahawk rib steak. It was 3.5 inches thick. Look, I'm blessed. And all I can say after this is be good. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the people who are supporting this channel. I'm blown away. I'm blown away. And with that, I'm gonna have to buy. With the support, I'm gonna be buying a new computer, and I'm thinking of a mini Mac or a Mac Mini. And there's the M1 available right now. I don't know if I should wait for the M2 because it's gonna be the same price, just more powerful. But my computer's slowing down, man. It took me like hours to edit this show. So, with that said, have a good weekend. Be nice. And be nice to your animals. Hey, if you're nice to your animals, you're nice to your people. Have a good weekend.